High school sports in Western New York are moving forward for the upcoming school year.
Section 6 reached an agreement with local high school referees last night after they threatened not to officiate games if their contract was allowed to expire by Wednesday. Joining us live now to talk about this is Dr. Robert Zayas, the executive director of the New York State Public High School Athletic Association. Dr. Zayas, thanks so much for joining us this afternoon.
Thanks for giving me the opportunity to speak with you.
So a lot of parents and, of course, student athletes have been keeping a very close eye on the deadline for this Wednesday. And, of course, a lot of stories were done last week as you reach closer to this deadline. Kind of set us up, if you will. What has the past couple of weeks been like for the Athletic Association and then for the other side, for the referees?
Well, anytime there's uncertainty with the start of the school year, that's certainly not positive for the student athletes that are looking forward to participating, especially considering the fact that we've had about 2.5 years of uncertainty for these student athletes that are looking forward to being given the opportunity to play the sports that they've been preparing for all summer long. So excited for the chance to get the season off as scheduled with officials and student athletes being able to play.
So let's talk about how we got to this point. What did you hear from the officials, the referees? What were they fighting for? Why was this so important to them?
Well, I don't think this is uncommon from other things that we've seen throughout the state of New York or really throughout the country. We're struggling right now with recruitment and retention of officials, and it's not a New York State problem. It's a national issue. We have some programs and some initiatives that we're working on at the State High School Athletic Association level to really help with the recruitment efforts. And once we get those officials, we need to find a way to retain them. And that's a challenge that we've had for a number of years, and it's really turning into a crisis. Without officials, we can't have games.
Beside the student athletes, of course, the teams themselves and each individual district, who won in this latest contract deal? I'm assuming that these referees were looking to be paid more. That could speak to or lend to keeping and retaining good high school officials. Who won in this deal besides, of course, student athletes in the districts?
Well, I think ultimately, like you just said, the student athletes won because they're going to be given the ability to play. But I don't think this is an uncommon situation from what we see with coaches or athletic directors, principals, superintendents, and teachers. We really don't pay any of those people what they should be paid. And I think officials are along the same lines. We are struggling with officials right now, and we're looking for new and innovative ways to pay officials more. But I think we also have to be cognizant that school districts have budgets that they have to abide by. And ultimately, that's what the discussion was over the course of the last several months was, how can we pay these officials more with the parameters that the school districts have in terms of their budget?
So it's like you just said, this conversation has been going on for the past couple of months. Have you been involved in this process the whole time? What made you want to step in and be really hands-on in these talks?
Well, I think it just lending assistance. That was my goal as I realized that the situation was getting to the point where the season was quickly approaching. There still wasn't a contract finalized. And that's really where I just offered to lend assistance. And that's not uncommon for me to do in any part of the state. Great working relationship with all of our sections. And really a tremendous amount of credit needs to be given to Mark DiFilippo, Executive Director in Section 6, and really the officials, because they came to an agreement after an extended negotiating period, but they settled on an awful lot of things right up until the final compensation was the sticking point. Thankfully, they were able to come to an agreement, and ultimately the student athletes are going to be able to participate as scheduled.
And I hope I'm not going out on a limb here to take a step back from some of the negotiations, but what is your message here? We've got thousands of kids and certainly their parents and guardians who are working hard to put these seasons on, to participate, to still maintain their grades, of course. That all is very important. What is your message to parents as we enter yet another season of fall sports all across Section 6? What can parents do to help you guys retain good officiating there on the fields?
That's a big part of it right now is we're realizing one of the challenges that we have with officials and retaining of officials is the sportsmanship that we're seeing coming from spectators. We have to understand that when we allow students to play, coaches to coach, and officials to officiate, that's the most positive atmosphere for our student athletes. Because when students participate in high school sports, statistics shows us they get better grades. They attend school at a greater rate. There's less discipline issues when compared to their non-participating classmates. So we have to create a positive atmosphere, a positive environment for these students when they're participating. And I think when we allow these officials to officiate, it's the most positive environment for our student athletes. But also the message needs to be sent that if there's anybody that wants to officiate, we want to talk to them.
All right, Dr. Robert Zayas, Executive Director of the New York State Public High School Athletic Association. That is all the time we have this afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.